What you've come to know as NGP, our next generation portable, is officially named PlayStation Vita.
The PlayStation Vita. Originally sold for $250 a decade ago, it was considered a commercial failure and managed to move around 16 million units before it was discontinued in 2019. In 2023, though, this device couldn't be any more relevant for portable retro gaming. If you thought the Game Boy Advance was impressive, wait till you check this thing out. Not only can you play Sony's PS1, PSP, and Vita games, but if you jailbreak it, you can play just about every console game before 2000, including early computers like the Commodore 64. In this video, we're going to refurbish this neglected PlayStation Vita. Now, if you're in the business of fixing and flipping devices, the economics of doing so with this handheld isn't really there yet. I mean, you could still get a brand new Vita at a reasonable price these days. This poor device has seen better days though. Aside from a strung out rodent gnawing on the edges, and the child hand cheese lodged in every crevice, I feel like we can bring this unit back to its former glory. The problem that's initially observed is that this Vita won't accept a charge.
2 hours later.
Now, something that I didn't catch on camera was that this Vita did initially boot up. It was at 6%, but it booted up nonetheless. I have a feeling the owner swapped the battery out, found that the charge management system didn't work, and sold it as parts to get ahead. Now, this Vita is pretty easy to open, but if this is your first time opening the device, there are 2 screws at the bottom near the charge port, as well as a couple hidden underneath the Vita debug port that need to be removed as well. The best course of action in my experience is to open the Vita up from the top where the left and right shoulder button assemblies are. You'll still need to separate the bottom of the Vita a little bit to get it open, but it'll save those connection sockets to the digitizer and battery. Speaking of which, both of these sockets are press fit, so you can just go Rambo on it like I did and separate them out with minimal fuss. Upon initial inspection, some of my fears have been realized. We're missing an aluminum shroud for this rectangular border around these components, and a bracket that holds the logic board with the left-hand circuit together. These sensor back panels were kind of pricey at $30 a pop, but like I said, we're not in this to make a profit. Sometimes I hate being right. Looks like someone forgot the second support screw on this bracket. Since the new rear touch panel is missing these components, let's reuse the old ones. This battery loom support has tabs on either side, so let's press the indentations to break it free. Now, I got this battery for $10 from a reseller on Walmart, but they can be found on eBay or Amazon at a similar price. After reassembly, we're ready to tackle the real problem of the matter. Now, my hunch is that the charge management system on this logic board is faulty or is shorted out. And since I got a brand new digitizer for this rebuild anyway, we're going to have to get at it by removing all these components. Next, let's remove this weird L bracket on the right-hand side. After that, we can lift these ribbon clips to free this daughter board like so. Both sides have connections to the shoulder button, the Joy-Con, and the logic board, so we'll have to do the other side in the same manner. Now, this left daughter circuit has a clip holding it in place. We'll have to press that down in order to release it from the housing. Once it's free, we can gingerly remove it from these ribbon cables. And since we're already in the area, let's go ahead and remove this Joy-Con by undoing these 2 screws. Ugh, gross. We almost need a hazmat suit for this operation. After removing the button membranes from this side, we can start unlatching the other daughter board's ribbon cables. Now, a Vita that hasn't been taken apart will have a metal support bracket where these 2 pink screws are. We'll undo those next. And this top plastic assembly for the power button and slot ports can simply be snapped off like so. After removing the shoulder button's ribbon cable, we'll need to undo this top pink screw assembly as well. Let's also not forget this power ribbon from the logic board. And finally, pulling back this top center camera reveals a hidden screw we need to undo so that we can free this thing. Before we can completely uninstall this PCB, we'll need to disconnect the digitizer from the back of it like so. After removing the remaining membranes and the Joy-Con, we're now ready to transfer everything to our new digitizer. Upon inspection, it looks like this new digitizer doesn't come with the Joy-Con trim. Simply popping this trim in from the outside, and it's ready to be transferred to the new one. It's not immediately obvious, but there are some clear plastic tabs for the adhesive on the digitizer. Once everything is peeled off, we can carefully place it on the mainframe like so. Before we start assembling everything, there's a major travesty we need to correct upon Sony's part. If you guys know me, I really hate proprietary ports. Not this one, or this one. And how is this port even a thing? Fortunately, there's a mod we can do to get this up to 2023 standards. It's none other than Oxyll's Vita C USB mod. For our first order of business, let's remove this offensive proprietary port. Assembling this mod for installation is pretty trivial. Let's first tackle these two resistors and get them out of the way. Now I bought and installed 3 of these mods, and the cleanest result I got was to pre-tin the pads and use a hot air station with flux, which isn't shown in this example. Ugh. Disgusting. Next we'll just flux the USB-C port's connectors and throw some solder into the mix like so. Finally, let's get this port's legs secured to the PCB for installation. Now you can do it Oxyll's direction state and just solder the mod PCB to PCB, but my first go at it had the USB port break loose due to my manhandling of the charging cable. In subsequent attempts, I found that using capacitor legs between the two PCBs gives a far superior and long-lasting bond. To get data working, we'll first connect the far right USB pin to the positive D marking on the PCB. Since we're on this side of the board anyway, let's connect the wire from this fuse to the 5-volt position marked on the mod like so. Now this part gave me issues on every installation. My best advice for this component is to blob this inducer with flux, and then tin its bottom left data pin with solder. After that, we can thread it to the other side and tack it to its negative data lead to complete the installation. One thing we don't want to forget is the added real estate needed to be housed within the shell. Now this doesn't need to be done with the 3G models, but with the Wi-Fi model you'll need to clip these tabs near the charging port like this. Before we put everything back together, let's address these Joy-Cons. Buying a couple of Joy-Cons will cost as much as our broken Vita, so in this case we're going to clean everything up and replace their caps instead. To take this thing apart, let's begin by undoing this aluminum shroud that's holding it together like so. Next we need to pull these 4 springs out of it as well. After that, there's some plastic guide nubs that are holding the sensor ribbon that we need to trim for it to break free. Once that's removed, it's safe to pop the bottom plastic cap off to expose the mechanism holding the stick in place. I found that the easiest way to remove this cross section was to place each tine of the tweezers on either side of it and pry it up like so. Oh, gross. Once everything is cleaned up, we can put it back together how we found it. The only thing I did differently was using a soldering iron to melt those plastic guide nubs for the ribbon cable to stay in place. An ordering mishap led to the wrong buttons getting delivered, so I had to use the old ones at the time of recording. But testing of the USB-C worked flawlessly. Because this unit had a parental code on it, let's reset it back to factory by holding the power, the PlayStation, and the right shoulder button like so. And because we're refurbishing this unit entirely, let's give it some matching buttons as well. And that about does it for this video. If you like this content, or if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave it down below. And as always, I'll see you next time. Oh man, it's good to be back. Last year was a heck of a ride, and this year I have a ton of devices to share with you all. Thanks for sticking with me over the last year, and I hope I can bring more value to you in this one. With all that out of the way, I'll see you in the next video.